To Haligonians, it's a timeless timepiece, a centuries-old but still standing symbol of their city's heritage, a long-lasting architectural icon to be proud of. Its clockworks were installed in the tower on the slope of Citadel Hill in 1803. Yes, this old town clock has been around a long time. Well, actually, that's not quite true. This town clock has really only been around since 1961. George Rose was an amateur filmmaker in the 60s. He was also a federal government draftsman, called in to help renovate the then 160-year-old clock tower.
It was pretty ripe, pretty rotten. So at one point it was decided, well, the building would have to come down and put a new one up.
The whole thing?
The whole thing.
George Rose captured the whole town clock renovation on this 8mm film, seen here publicly for the first time.
We basically were replacing the building, but so we were trying to make it look like it was originally. They're all mortise and tendon joints with wooden pegs in them, and there are some also, you get later on in the film, you'll see some dovetail joints too, which are kind of wedge-shaped there. For the tower itself, the vertical columns are 35 feet long, and they're 5-sided, and they had to be cut out of 14 by 14-inch timber, so they're quite massive.
What kind of wood?
It's Douglas fir from BC. It won't rot. Each floor has a great big X timber framing in between the columns.
Because the big X-shaped frames were in the way, 4 of the 8 windows in the upper clock tower were, and still are, fakes.
If you look close at them, they got tar paper behind them, so you can't see the framing.
The builders made another neat discovery. They pried open the copper ball on the domed roof of the tower.
There were some coins nailed into it, a couple newspapers from the day, and a little note in the name of the 2 men that put the copper on the outside of the ball.
They even relied on Halifax's round church, St. George's, for clues.
It was built at the same time, so we copied basically the moldings outside and some inside, the windows and the doors.
With the data collected, a new old town clock was completely redrafted. George Rose's film shows that Halifax's old town clock is really only 42 years old. He shot this film out of a sense of history.
I sort of had in the back of my mind that somebody might want to see this or use it someday.
He knows his fellow Nova Scotian craftsmen felt a similar sense of local pride in this project.
Makes a person feel pretty good, especially when it's probably one of the most special buildings in the city.
The question is, if the first town clock tower lasted about 160 years, will this 1961 replica last just as long? Ironically, only time will tell.